results from the divers.
Okay, and as you can see on your screens now, it's the men's 10-metre preliminary, a name at the bottom there that some will know. Most.
Some people.
Some people. Sam Thornton, Danny Bates, Matthew Dixon, William Hallam, Alistair Kaku, James Denny, Charlie Wood, Thomas Daly, Daniel Goodfellow. That's our 9. Preliminaries this morning. Brooker, what are we looking for? This is your expertise, the 10 metres, not the men's, but the women's 10 metres at least.
Yes, well, obviously a few people have tuned in to watch Thomas Daly try and do what he did at the Olympics last summer, getting his bronze medal. He will be performing all of his dives that he did at the Games last year. But also we have some younger divers coming through, which are doing so well in the junior circuit last year, and hoping to make their way onto that senior team with Thomas.
Yeah, one of those perhaps is Sam Thornton, just 14 years of age, but had to miss a lot of 2012 due to a horrendous injury. Hopefully later on our cameraman will spot the scar on Sam's arm. He's our first diver up, but he actually broke his wrist and it came through the skin. That just doesn't sound appetising, does it?
No, it wasn't pretty. The photos are horrific, and he's done so well to get back onto that 10-metre board using that arm.
I do warn you, it is early in the morning. You've just eaten your breakfast and we do catch a sight of Sam's arm, then just look away. We'll warn you, don't worry. So a packed house here in Plymouth. In fact, the crowd was full before me and Brooke even got here.
It was. They were very eager to come in, weren't they?
Absolutely. I was going to offer the commentary position. They were here that early.
Yes. All here to see one guy. That's coming up towards the end. From the Games last year, who also won the British Championships yesterday in the 3-metre synchro.
Well, Rebecca was saying that that's not going to continue. They're splitting up. Not a difference, just that Rebecca doesn't want to concentrate on the 10. But she stepped in for Hannah Starling, who we spoke to yesterday, who injured herself, but not too badly, so she'll be back in action fairly soon, and hoping to secure a place at the Europeans and Worlds as partner for Alicia Black.
Yes, all of the divers here are competing for the competitions coming up in the year, the European Championships, the FINA Diving World Series and the World Championships.
Okay, so if you fancy some holidays this year, Germany for the Europeans, we can then jet off to Spain for the World Diving Championships. But before that, we can get our skis on and head up to Edinburgh in April. I'm sure there'll be some snow left on the mountains up there in Scotland. We can do a bit of skiing. That's the FINA Diving World Series. If you'd like some more information on that, nice and simple, it's www.finadivingworldseries.com. It's between the 19th and 21st of April. Bring an Easter egg, I'll eat that for you. I think the snow will have gone, won't it?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. Here is the aforementioned Sam Thornton, just 14 years of age. It must be hard to have such a lengthy injury at such a young age, because that's what you're learning.
It is, and when you're growing and you really have to focus on your diving and all the techniques, and he has done really well to come back diving in this field of divers today.
So there is Sam. We were out there earlier and we were testing the crowd's ability to go deathly quiet, and they paid attention. Evidently our lesson worked.
It did. Could hear a pin drop.
Certainly could. Well, we'll hear a buoy drop. That's for certain. There goes Sam with his first dive.
Sam starting with a reverse 2.5 somersaults with degree difficulty of 2.7. And it's a lovely dive from Sam. Massive jump there. And a really clean entry.
Several 8s in this score, as hopefully you'll see on the bottom of the screen in a minute, but 67.50. Mind the camera, Sam, as you walk away. Last thing you want to do is injure your head at this stage. Good start from Sam, as we say, trying to get back into things. Went to Australia's Youth Olympic Festival at the beginning of this year as well, so equalled his personal best off the 10-metre platforms. So we'll be hoping to continually improve. Here off the 7.5 is Danny Bates.
Yes, Danny choosing 7.5 meters aboard to dive from, in with 2.5 somersaults with tuck. A nice simple dive for him to start with, keep the nerves down. Just goes in with too much splash, which will be deducted in the scores.
Now, just to clarify, 4 of our divers are going off lower boards here. This one is going to be off the 5 metre for Matthew Dixon, who's extremely young, and another Plymouth diver. And there goes Matthew.
Reverse 1.5 somersaults with tuck, slightly over from Berth. Scoring 6, it's 1.5.5, 1.6.5 from the judges. It was really nice through the A, just pulled it long.
From Matthew. And again, just to clarify, those guys don't go off the 10 metre, can't qualify for tonight's final if they don't go off 10 metre constantly throughout this competition. So Danny Bates, Matthew Dixon, William Hallam and Alistair Kaku are just perfecting because they're so young and doing an arm stand. I'm 31 and I can't do an arm stand, and William Hallam showing me how to do it.
Yes, a very simple dive, only a difficulty of 1.7. This will be taken up to 10 metre at some point when he's old enough. Scoring 7s from the judges, a nice clean entry.
I was going to say, at this point, if you're going off the lower boards, the perfection is the actual movement, but more about the entry and the cleanness of it as well at that height.
Yeah, absolutely. When the dives have lower degree of difficulty, you want to perform it to their best ability.
Here's Alistair, arm stand double somersault. He's going off the 10 to start with. He's got 2 more 10s, so he's getting there.
Yeah, he's starting to learn his list of dives needed.
Again, the technique and the strength being shown by these youngsters to get up there.
And a nice arm stand double somersault there from Alistair in the Pike's position. He has a really nice clean entry. Could have kept his legs straight a little bit more, but nice steady start.
So those were the 4 guys that can't qualify. Sam Thornton, James Denny, Charlie Wood, Thomas Daly and Daniel Goodfellow will definitely make the final. But as we've been hearing from Brooke all weekend, sometimes the prelims are just getting those cobwebs out and just getting into the competition sort of mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. The prelims are just about doing their list of dives, going through the motions, so when they come to the final, they can really give it their all. James Denny choosing an inward 3.5 somersault tuck to start his prelims. And a nice steady start. Moving slightly away from the board, but he has no problem in making the dive.
James was the bronze medalist at 2012's British Championships. He was 3rd through the prelims and then 3rd in the final as well. So maybe a step up this year for James is what he'll be looking for, and I'm sure his coach A.D. Hinsliff will be looking for that as well. This is Charlie Wood. A 19-year-old, Southampton Diving Club. 6th place finish in last year's final. And again, another person equaling his qualifying from the prelim in the final. He was 6th in that prelim as well. Starting with an arm stand.
Nice dive. Charlie choosing to do a backward arm stand double somersault with 1.5 twists. Some nice movement through the air. And a nice clean entry. Steady start for Charlie.
On my little pieces of paper I have in front of me, I like to put a little picture of the people just so I can, relate them. But I left Tom's blank. If I didn't know what Tom looked like, I'd be in trouble, wouldn't I?
You wouldn't be here doing this job.
No, I see enough of Tom Face, bless him. Again, another athlete with Olympic rings tattooed on the inside of his arm. I saw Chris Mears with them yesterday. And Brooke was telling me it's like a badge of honour, I suppose.
And a nice steady start from Tom. Back 2.5 somersaults with 2.5 twists. Didn't get the cleanest entry, but again, in this prelim, it's just about getting his list of dives out, ready for that final later.
So Tom getting his start, 79.20. And Daniel Goodfellow to finish us off in round 1. Good start from Daniel.
Yeah, absolutely. Back 2.5 somersaults with a 1.5 twist from Daniel Goodfellow. Really strong jump and a really nice shape in the air and a very clean entry. Scoring some really nice scores from the judges.
Took a bronze yesterday, Daniel, from the 3 metres. So stepping it up today. And back round we go. That's the end of round 1. Tom Daly, followed by Daniel Goodfellow, James Denny, Sam Thornton, Charlie Wood, Danny Bates, Alistair Kaku, Matthew Dixon and William Hallam.
Yes, Sam Thornton choosing to do back 2.5 somersaults piped. Again, not the highest degree of difficulty of only 2.9. And he just leaves his feet slightly short of vertical, which will be deducted.
Now, either everybody out there is so intently watching this prelim or they've forgotten how to use Twitter. We want your messages. Hashtag BGDC13. We'll try and read the best ones out we possibly can. That's hashtag BGDC13 on Twitter. This is Danny Bates.
Forward 3.5 somersaults in tucked position. This is the lead up for the forward 4.5 on 10 metre, which we'll see Tom perform later on. Little bit too splashy on the end of the dive for Danny, but scoring 6.5 from the judges.
So Matthew Dixon, we talked about Victoria Vinton in the women's event so far this weekend, but Matthew Dixon and his, again, it's about learning experience from some of the bigger divers.
It is, and Matthew trains here with Tom in Plymouth, and he really looks up to Tom with his diving and how he actually dives himself. And it's a very nice second dive.
Just leaning slightly forward before he even started there, and maybe just try and straighten himself up before he sets away. But 93 in total for his scores. William Hallam now. Bradford Esprit.
William choosing to do his forward 2.5 piped with a run-up on the 7.5 metres. This sometimes helps get more power into the dive. And a nice entry.
It helps with the rotation as well, I'm presuming, yeah?
Of course, yes. When you go up to 10 metre, you really need as much rotation as you can to get the likes of that front 4.5 spinning.
So William there doing that from the 7.5, and again, as we talk about the youngsters, it's about building their confidence and their ability, I suppose, not just the confidence, but the ability to do the dive. Because once you get up there, if you get it wrong, as Brooke was telling us yesterday, it hurts.
It does. It hurts a lot.
That's Brooke's shoulder.
Yeah. Alistair back 2.5 somersaults touch from the 5 metre. Good degree of difficulty, 3.0. And again, this will be a lead up for the back 3.5 on 10 metre. 5 and a 6 from the judges.
Again, James Denny sitting in third as we went through that first round, but as we saw in a few of the finals yesterday, the positions for medals were changing all over the place. Chris Mears was in and out in that 3 metre, and Sarah Barrow dropped a dive a little bit awkwardly and left herself with some work to do, eventually finding that silver medal herself.
This is a huge dive from James Denny, back 3.5 somersaults in the piked position, 3.6 degree of difficulty. It's unfortunate he's gone slightly over on the end, but still some decent marks from the judges.
You talked about yesterday a new list heading towards Rio, but not just Rio, obviously the events that take place before that, Euros and Worlds this year. Maybe that's something that James is working on and just needs to perfect it rather than not something he can't do.
Yeah, definitely. And Tom is looking for a synchro partner, so all these boys are starting to do the dives that Tom are doing in order to gain that place.
So I've got a chance.
No chance.
Okay, thanks. Charlie Wood now.
Charlie just losing his back tension on the end, which causes some splash to come up on the end. He's got some really good aerial work, nice pointed toes and a very flat pike shape, but slightly arched on the end.
Obviously, Danny and Matthew are from Plymouth, but other than that, nobody else in this field here in the prelims are from Plymouth. So whoever it is they choose to partner Tom, they've got some work to perfect the synchro routine, haven't they?
They have. It's scary diving with this guy. And they all have to work very hard to get that list up to scratch.
I'm sure there are people at home cheering just at the side of his fingers there as well. They cheer everything about Tom.
Inward 3.5 from Tom. Again, not the cleanest entry from Tom here. Really good aerial work, lovely jumping distance from the board, but as he goes in, kicking up a little bit of splash.
It's interesting that by anybody else's standard, 8.5s and 8s, he's like, wow, and then we were kind of just really picking at Tom. But is that because we're so used to seeing such perfection?
Yeah, and training with him for so I can see what he's capable of, so I'm sure I'm his biggest critic.
I was going to say, people off air, you can't believe what she says about him. This is Daniel Goodfellow completing our round and not completing it as well as he probably wanted to.
Yeah, and again, Daniel is one of the contenders for the synchro partner of Tom. So this, again, is a new dive for Daniel. Back arm stand, triple somersault. Just kicking slightly too high, causing the splash on the end. 4.5s and 5.5s from the judges.
Daniel was there or thereabouts in second position at the turn of the second round, up to the third round now, and Sam Thornton, you can see, was in second, 126.95. How higher marks has he got to improve that score here?
Yes, James doing a really complicated dive, twisting on the start and then coming into the pike shape to complete the rest of the dive. Just a little too much splash being kicked up from Sam.
A wry smile as he watched his replay, and then a quick walk off. Danny Bates, 104.45.
Back 2.5 somersaults from the 7.5 meter board. He was travelling slightly too far away from the board and he caught the water with his back, causing quite a bit of splash to come up.
So we mentioned about those tweets, and we've got a couple coming here. Claire Davenport says she's loving the live stream. Great work, team. She even likes listening to you, Brooke. Well, I think that might be aimed at me. Tina Lander is saying she's paid good money to watch me partner Tom. Well, Tina, you can raise enough, we'll have a go.
Matthew Dixon, back arm stand double somersault from the 5 meter board. Little scruffy as he goes through the air with the toes, but he does keep the splash down, getting that rip entry which the divers are trying to get.
I love that Brooke uses the phrase scruffy. I was surprised by it, but apparently it's something you guys use as a term for a dive, and you carry on.
Yeah, scruffy in the air, not pointed toes, slightly bent legs. To us, that's scruffy.
I was looking for dishevelled hair and dirty nails, but scruffy, a definition here in diving. Tina, I'm sure you could teach me, by the way.
And a lovely dive from William in with 2.5 somersaults in the top position. It looked like it was going to go short of vertical, but he just managed to sneak a nice rip entry and getting some 7s and 7.5s from the judges.
William Hallam moving himself up to 140.45, and we saw a wry smile from Sam Thornton earlier. That certainly wasn't a smile from William, a bit of a look at the screen and a huff.
I think he was worried that he did kick up some splash, but he managed to keep it down.
Alistair Kakut. Dive number 3, halfway through his routines here, and inward 2.5 somersaults from the 5.
Yes, landing a little short from vertical. You can see on his face he's not happy with that. Didn't quite get the jump needed to complete the dive.
Didn't appear to straighten up completely either as he went in there.
No, it is a hard dive to get in 5 meters. He just needs to work on his power.
Yes, it is interesting that these guys go from being slight, young, gymnastic-style sort of shaped bodies to somebody even such as James here. You can see the upper body starting to spread out right across the screen. And
Yes.
Tom's physique, and you look at Jack Law's legs yesterday, just absolute
You're
full of
looking at
muscle.
Jack Law's
I was
legs?
looking at Jack Law's legs. You got an issue with this?
That's a shame from James. Back 2.5 somersaults with 2.5 twist, 3.6 degree of difficulty. He just didn't reach back enough on the start to get the dive rotating and landing very short of vertical.
James Denny 175.00. Yes, I was looking at Jack Law's legs yesterday because I was thinking to myself, he probably has the same issue with skinny jeans that I do. You can't get them past your thighs.
For different reasons.
I bet he's glad he spends most of his life in a tracksuit. I'll tell you that. If I could, I would. Charlie Wood, 114.20.
One of Charlie's harder dives forward, 3.5 somersaults piked, 3.0 degree of difficulty. Just doesn't get the jump needed, and he lands short of vertical. Only 4.5 and 5.5 from the judges.
I love the fact that worldwide he's known as Tom Daly, but during competition he has to be called Thomas.
Well, sometimes if he annoys me in training, he gets a Thomas from me.
Thomas? It's like Tom and Jerry. Thomas? For all the younger viewers, you may have to go on to YouTube or the internet in general to find a clip of Tom and Jerry. Do they still show that? Tom and Jerry must have survived. Brooke's looking at me. She's slightly nodding. There are other cartoons available to watch, obviously. Tom now showing his precision and strength, and he's so still in his arm stands, isn't he?
A nice back arm stand, triple in the piked position, 3.5 degree of difficulty. He's having slight problems with getting his rip entry today in this preliminary, but hopefully we'll see it coming out to play in the final.
Well, hopefully these 6 dives this morning will wipe the sleep out of his eyes, and as you say, it's perhaps just dusting those cobwebs off. Here's Daniel Goodfellow sprinting towards the boards.
Forward 3.5 somersaults piked, very nice dive from Daniel. He has a really good rip entry on him, and from 10 metre, that's the main component of the dives.
Some divers take what seems like an edge when they're up there, and some just go bang them off.
Yeah, it's all preference. Some people like to go through the dives mentally before they dive off, and some just go for it.
Some of the things you don't see are that the guys are sort of waiting at the bottom of each set of steps for the next guy to move on. So they're probably practicing there and using that time to get it through their brain and go through. So maybe Daniel is one of those that does it all downstairs, gets on the board and thinks, I'm off before I change my mind.
5 divers in this event with full 10-metre lists.
So halfway through, it's a full 9 dives, gone round 3 times. Tom Daly, 238.10. Daniel Goodfellow, Sam Thornton and James Denny in behind. Is that what we're kind of expecting so far?
Yeah, the top 4 divers here. Tom cruising away in this prelim. Daniel, Sam and James all fighting it out for that silver place into the final.
Of course, as we said, the 5 guys at the top of the list will go through. 4 guys who haven't used the 10-metre board all the way through cannot.
Sam forward 3.5 somersaults piked, wrapping his arms around his legs, slightly bent as he takes off, and a little over from vertical.
Again, we asked you to send us your tweets. Apparently, I've got myself in trouble here. Tina Lander says it's a deal. Name the time and place. Oh dear. I will tell you, Tina, there isn't enough material to make me any trunks. Don't worry about that. And Dean Jones says loves the commentators. Ha ha. More of an Alan Partridge ha ha, but ha ha. Away they go. This is Danny Bates.
Yeah, Danny really struggling on this dive from the start. As you see on the replay, he is leaning too far forwards, travelling too far away from the board, which does leave him short of vertical.
Is this something that as you get higher, it starts to straighten out a little because you've got that bit more time to go through the routine?
Yeah, definitely. You do have more time on 10 metre, but then you start putting in extra somersaults and extra twists, and then you have the same problem.
Those coaches, they're not nice people, are they?
Evil.
Didn't do you any harm to have a very good coach, did it?
It didn't.
It won't do this young man any harm to be here at Plymouth either.
And a nice dive from Matthew, back 1.5 somersaults, 2.5 twists, 2.8 degree difficulty. A really nice jump from Matthew. The feet are nice and tight together. A little over from vertical, but he does keep the splash down.
195.30, 49 points from the dive for Dixon. Jasmine says, hi guys. That's probably to me and you, I think. As usual, loving the commentary. Thank you for making the BGDC13 much more enjoyable to watch.
Here to make you happy.
Insight from Brooke. Poor Christmas cracker jokes from myself. I'm full of them.
William Hallam, back 2.5 somersaults, piked on the 7.5 metre board. Nice powerful jump, could have been a little, but he does land on the head, not quite getting his arms back for that rip entry. 5.5 from the judges.
So here's Alistair Kaku. If you haven't got enough to look forward to, with the fact that there is 2 more events after this one this morning, and of course the finals tonight, myself and Brooke took a trip to the 10 metre board last night. We've got a video of that later on, and we're going to try and speak with the legendary now, Andy Banks, as well. So do stay tuned later on. This is Alistair doing one of those 10 metre dives, reverse 2.5 somersaults.
Yes, a nice dive here from Alistair. One of his dives from 10 metre, 2.7 degree of difficulty, slightly too far away from the board. But he manages to land on his head, little too much splash though.
He had one glimpse at the screen and walked away. Sometimes you don't want to see it, do you?
Not if you're not happy with it.
And you guys know, the moment you hit the what, you know, don't you?
Yeah, you are aware if it's a good or a bad dive.
It was interesting to watch some of the celebrities on Splash, even after just 5 weeks of training, they were able to sort of say, oh, I did this, oh, I did this. And it's amazing to hear how much you feel, even flying through the air from the 10 metres.
Yeah, you start to learn what hurts and what doesn't, in what places.
We saw a few that hurt, didn't we?
Yeah, especially off that 10 metre.
There was a couple yesterday, even here the professionals, there was a couple yesterday of winces and oohs from the crowd.
James Denny, a back arm stand triple somersault in the tucked position and performing it very well. Pushing off his hands, spinning around in that tight tuck shape like a ball and keeping the splashdown rip entry. 7, 7.5 and 2 6.5.
69.30, 244.30 for James Denny at the moment. Tom Daly, Daniel Goodfellow and Charlie Wood to come. Back 2.5 somersaults for Charlie. 163.70 he is on at the moment. This is what we talked about a little bit earlier. Some guys get there and go. And some of the other guys, it's running through the brain, getting themselves mentally prepared.
Charlie, it's unfortunate for Charlie. He does have a very good rip entry on the end. But here he's just travelling again too far away from the ball, which makes it really hard to control on the end, like leaving him over from vertical.
See the red marks across the top of the shoulders there, and you'll be used to that.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of divers do hit their shoulders as they go in, causing the red marks.
It's not a sport for somebody who bruises easily, is it?
Definitely not.
So here's Tom. I wonder what the thousands of Tom Daly fans watching us are doing right now, probably shouting at the screen. You see Tom on his entry.
And a very nice dive. The forward 4.5 somersaults, tucked 3.7 degree of difficulty. And he really performs that well, spinning, squeezing his legs into his body and keeping the splash down.
Other than his absolute ability to dive, people sort of maybe miss out on his dedication as well. A lot of people think that after the Olympic Games, Tom would sort of pack a bag and head out to Ibiza, Magaluf and chill out, but no, he didn't. He went off to the World Junior Championships. He took a gold medal in the platform, and he took a gold medal on the 3 metre synchro with Jack.
He did, yeah, he did synchro with Jack, and he really enjoys taking time out from the 10 metre to do some springboard.
There was a rumour he was going to do it here, but that went away, and he's just concentrating on the 10 at the moment.
He was thinking about it, but he wasn't very well, so he decided to concentrate on the 10 metre. And Sam Thornton just getting some 7s from the judges.
Sam's next up. Daniel just finishing the round. Hey, don't worry about mistakes. You're working with me. This is Sam. You see just on that right lower part of his arm there, that nasty scar we talked about earlier. I'm getting towards midday now, so we can talk about that. People's breakfast is well and truly gone.
In with 3.5 somersaults from Sam. He made the dive well, just over rotating on the end, spinning a little bit too quick and unable to control his entry. 5 5.5s and a 6.
49.60. Somebody asked me yesterday if he did that diving.
If what?
If he actually did the injury diving.
He did it in the gym at base of the diving.
I did answer that way, and was very surprised that that person asked me if it was done diving, because that all of a sudden makes diving far more dangerous.
Danny Bates back on stand double somersault from the 7.5 metres. Again, not getting the push off from the hands that was needed to complete this dive. Travelling too far away from the board, ending short on the water.
36, not going to be happy. Be the first to tell you he's not going to be happy either. This is young Matthew. Seven and a half was his last one. He's gone back down to the 5s. This is an inward 2.5 somersaults. This is the penultimate dive for him and the rest of the guys on this 10 metre prelim.
And you'll see how quickly Matthew spins in that dive, performing this dive very well. A lovely rip entry on the end. He'll be very happy with that, as the crowd were.
Yeah, be looking at that, getting a couple of 7s if you please, 258.85. Please keep those tweets coming. Hashtag BGDC13. It's BGDC13, and we will try and read out the best ones that we get through. Over 50 countries watching over the course of this weekend.
I'm not going to ask you to speak any languages again, Alan.
No, it was tragic enough yesterday, wasn't it?
Reverse 2.5 somersaults, tucked, 2.7 degree difficulty. He had a nice aerial work, just leaving his feet slightly too much towards the pool, and he really had to arch it to get it round.
Some of Tom's biggest challenges on the world scene are from China, so I'll say ni hao to them.
Hopefully some are watching.
I'll bank on that. I would imagine that they would have a very interested eye on how Tom Daley is going. At the end of the day, not only have you got to perform really good dives, you want to be matching what the other guys are doing and then bettering that dive themselves, don't you?
Absolutely. And here Alistair doing a forward 3.5 somersaults in tucked position. You won't see many divers doing this dive. Only a difficulty of 2.7, and he leaves it short of vertical, which is unfortunate. 5s, 5.5s and 1 4 from the judges.
James Denny now, ranked 3rd, a tariff of 3.3. Reverse 3.5 from the 10. Or a 307C for those that like the numbers.
James really has to work hard on this dive. When we see on the replay, he's leaning quite far forwards, travelling too far away from the board, which makes it really hard work for himself. But he managed to land on his head, unfortunately not keeping the splash down, which will be deducted in the scores.
Next up is Charlie Wood. He's gradually improving his performance at British Championships as he gets a little bit older. He was 7th in 2011 and 6th, as we said earlier, in 2012. So this man here at 19 he'll want a medal this time, won't he?
That's what he'll be aiming for, yes. And one less somersault than what James did the dive before, a reverse 2.5 somersaults in the tucked position. A little easy for Charlie, but I know he enjoys training this dive and performs it well.
So 2 divers left in this penultimate round, and we'll move into round 6 in a moment. But back on your screens, a man you've probably been watching for the first 5 weekends of the year. Tom with 3:30.60, some way ahead even before he makes this dive in this round. I can tell you, currently 1,000 people.
And Tom
watching.
just stroking his head there. I think he missed his grab on the end of the dive. It's really good aerial work, causing the splash. Sometimes that happens in diving, but best to do it here rather than in an international.
And he moves up to 4:13.40. James Denny's second with Daniel to come. And that makes Tom's score 106 points clear.
Not a bad effort from Tom. And Daniel Goodfellow in with 3.5 somersaults in the tucked position. He's a really pretty diver. And just doing too much splash on the end, but 7s from all the judges.
Tom being shown to the scoreboard, not only in here but outside in the Plymouth Life Centre, and the crowd just sort of went, ooh. He leads. Daniel's dive meant that his lead is just about 90 points. So it's still quite a dominating performance even in the preliminaries. It's not that the rest of the field isn't capable, it's that Tom just is that sort of enigma, exceptional talent, isn't he?
Yes, Tom is a huge talent, but also he's doing the massive dives as well, and not many of the divers here on the men's 10 metre are matching him with this. Like Sam doing a forward arm stand somersault height, only a difficulty of 1.9, which I'm sure he's doing because he wants to get in that final, and they have to do all their dives from the 10 metre. Nice scores though.
As we said earlier, the 5 guys who have dived from the 10 metres constantly throughout will automatically make it through. Danny Bates, who you can see now going from the 10 metre, oddly, on his last dive. Matthew Dixon, William Hallam and Alistair Kaku, who all follow this, will also not make into the final.
A nice dive from Danny back. 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twists. A nice jump from Danny and a very nice clean entry.
So Matthew to complete his round. Sam is going to finish on 3:23.50. Danny Bates finishes with 2:92.85. I'm getting a very good reception from the crowd for it.
Yes, Matthew is a little star here in Plymouth. A back 2.5 somersaults with tucked. All of the dives he's doing here from the 5 metre and the 7.5 is all in preparation for him to take these big dives up to 10 metre. And he's performing these dives very well.
Remember, keep your tweets coming. We've still got 2 more sessions of diving this morning. The women will be going from the 3 metre springboard, and then our guest pair of Yona and Matthew will be going for a 3 metre synchro as well. So plenty more to come, so keep your tweets coming in.
William Hallam, back arm stand double, back 2.5 somersaults, half twist. Nice pike shape in the air and a very nice rip entry.
I'll give you the numbers, you'll remember it then. It's 5251B.
Yeah, I can read the numbers, but I can't read the words.
I suppose you live on numbers throughout your career, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
This is Alistair. slight hesitation before he took off there.
Yes, 2.7 degree difficulty. Really quite hard dive to do off 5 metre. Slightly short from vertical as well as he turns and squeezes into that tuck shape, not jumping hard enough.
Doesn't get those legs anywhere near where he'd want them, and I'm sure the guys at Southampton Diving Academy will be constantly working on Alistair. He's here at the British Champs for a reason, and one of those will be to learn, but the other to gain experience of crowds such as the one that's out here at the Plymouth Fly Centre. They were very vocal before we came on air.
They were all very excited.
That was just you. Concentration from James. 19-year-old leaves the board on his final dive.
Yes, and the big concentration because it's a massive dive. Board 4.5 somersaults with tuck 3.7 degree difficulty. Maybe travelling slightly too far from the board, not managing to straight out on the end, which is a shame for James.
44 points for Charlie. For James. 351.40. This is Charlie Wood coming up now. Back 1.5. 3.5 twists.
Yes, one of Charlie's specialities, this dive. You won't see many divers performing it.
I'll leave it with him.
And performed very nicely.
Excellent to look at that dive as well, you know, just as from a spectator's point of view, looks very spectacular.
It is. It's really hard to keep the rotation not quite as strong as his other dives, but then having to twist as fast as he can to get it round. The 3.5 twists.
Certainly a skill. 3 sevens in there, and here's Thomas, as it says on the screen. You see him coughing there. So,
yeah, he's really not been very well.
Not, has he?
These last week, but he's here to entertain us and the crowd and the viewers at home.
You wouldn't hear him used as an excuse for anything either.
Absolutely not.
He said that earlier to me. Do you get the urge to cough as you're going down?
Maybe before. And he ends his prelim on a huge dive, reverse 3.5 somersaults. Amazing scores from the judges. Not quite the 10 he would be looking for, maybe in the final. But a very nice final dive from Tom.
So Tom finishes on a staggering 5:02.50. And the question is, will Daniel Goodfellow finish in the 400s? Just to keep that distance down. He's was the closest after 2 rounds. Again, it's there are no medals here in the prelims. It's all about tonight, but
oh, it's unfortunate for Daniel. This
not the way he would have wanted to end, is it?
No, this would have been one of his new dives off the 10 metre, reverse 3.5 somersaults. Not easy following Tom's, the dive before. And he has landed very short of vertical. But he will be going through to the final, and hopefully he'll get another chance on that dive.
So Daniel moving down into 3rd position because of that final dive. But again, as Brooke alludes to in our commentaries quite often, it's about getting through. And as you said, you don't particularly want to bust a gut in the prelim because you've got so much more to do in the evening as well. You've got to get there.
You do. Obviously, you need to get into the final to begin with, but all of the divers will have gone through, the ones that did their full 10-metre list. And it's all about the final now. They've just done a full list, just getting their nerves out. So when it comes to the final, they can put everything that they've got into it.
Well, we saw Matthew Dixon, who can't go through to the final because he didn't go off the 10-metre board. However, finishing slightly higher than Sam Thornton, who will go through. So obviously the technique is there. It's just he's a small little wee fella, but he's going to work on that.
He is. He is a massive talent down here in Plymouth.
Don't tell me you've created another Tom Daly.
We're trying.
Oh, why not? Why not?
And yeah, little Matthew, all of the dives that you saw him do today, when he is old enough and strong enough to go back onto that 10-metre board to do the dives, he'll be one to watch for the future.
So we've been saying you can Send us your tweets, a few coming through saying things like, got an essay to do, but I don't want to miss the BGDC13. Well, again, we can't advocate not doing your homework, but yeah, stay with us anyway. And somebody says, bless him, he's not very well.